Yo, what's up guys, Seiishizo over here, and I have not been making Etheria content for quite a bit. Main reason was I was in Shanghai, China for this esports event, which was actually very cool. Besides that, I also managed to do a few other things, such as meet the developers, see the office over there, of course explore a little bit of Shanghai, and those kind of things. So for me, exploring Shanghai is actually kind of interesting. I used to live in Shanghai for 4 years because I studied there, but that's kind of sidetracking. So first of all, this is not a sponsored video. I do want to make sure that you guys notice that I'm not going to be overly positive about this or negative about this or anything. I'm just going to state it as I feel after seeing the people that work behind the scenes, talking to the other players, talking to the other content creators, talking to pretty much a lot of people, talking to Jack specific himself. I actually had a one-on-two session with me, Falcon, and Jack, which was definitely very interesting. We did not record it, and I'll explain why that is in a second later. But I do want to mention that this is not sponsored, so I do give my own opinion about anything on this. I'm not going to be white knighting, as I see in the Discord community or the Reddit community, that some people is like, everything that is positive is like a white knight, everything that's negative is like pitchfork, burn down the building, that kind of stuff. Now, I want to give my honest opinion that I crafted after being to Shanghai, seeing the office, talking to the developers, talking to the people behind the scenes, and of course playing this game for a very long time myself. So I'm not entirely sure how many hours I have in this game right now, but I definitely have a fair bit of hours in this game right now. But to the question, do I still play? Yes, I'm definitely still playing. I'm actually very actively playing. For either arena, I'm actually currently sitting at rank 8, so definitely going decent over there. RTA, definitely have to play a bit more, sitting somewhere pretty low rank-ish. Definitely something that I have to catch up a bit more. But that's also something that I would like to do more when the gear split is here, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second as well. Because we did have that talk with Jack, and we did actually have a whole bunch of new information that hasn't been posted anywhere, that hasn't been shared anywhere yet, and you're the first one going to be seeing it over here. But once again, I do want to mention, I'm not trying to white knight, I'm not trying to burn down the building, I'm not trying to do overly positive or overly negative. I'm just gonna give my opinion after playing this game for I don't know how many hours. I do really enjoy this game. I think this game has an insane good base. The big issue is that it's definitely going pretty much downhill since the last like 2, 3, 4, 5-ish weeks. We started off crazy good. I would say the launch of this game was insane. Everyone was really on their honeymoon, like enjoying the game, going into like module drops. And I think for a lot of people, this game was super enjoyable, from like normals, hard, nightmares, hell. The first few were a little bit difficult. Then the moment Inferno hit is like, yeah. Okay, so that is very difficult right there. Before we go into any topic, I do want to say that this is their words and that it is my interpretation of what they said with my words saying it out right now. Therefore, I can't say it's like, oh, this is specific going to happen or that is specific what they were saying. That certain things are just not set in stone yet. That's also why we did not record this session with Jack, because at the start, Vulcan did actually ask, can we record this session? And I said right away, Jack, are you more free to talk about more topics if we don't record it? And he was right away, it's like, yeah, you understand the thing. Because if he's recorded and he says anything wrong, it is a big problem for him. Whereas if he's not recorded, it's about the he said, she said, whatever. And then it's kind of in the middle and it's not as big of an issue for him. And therefore, he's a lot more free to talk a lot about topics that we haven't heard yet before, which this video will cover a lot of new topics of things that you haven't heard yet before. But once again, keep in mind, it's somewhat in the middle of these are actually going to be implemented, as I'm saying right now, because these are my interpretations of their words rather than them saying this is exactly what we're going to do. So for core issues of the game, I think for that, the first thing that have to be understood is the focus of the player base. And it's not really an issue, but it's just something that I would like to explain from my experience for talking to the developers of what is the player base that they're focusing on. This is not a game like Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Honkai Star, where you log in, do your dailies, and log out, and then you call it a day until there's a next patch, and then you play maybe like 2 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours, play the storyline, and then you quit the game again, or you just play the dailies. This is more of a grindy game that every day you log in, you do your stability, and then besides your stability, if you actually want to progress properly, you do also want to go for your stability refreshes with the crystals in there. I would also say free-to-play friendly or pay-to-win friendly. Might this say it's like, oh, that's super pay-to-win? Well, to be honest, I've been refreshing my crystals every day so far, and I've never bought the crystal pack itself. So if we go for like the crystal trade thing, I still have the doubler, which is like the first time doubler thing out there. I am getting low on my crystals right now because I spent a little bit too much on this new event, which was maybe not really recommended on the Dreamscape, but I just kind of wanted to try it out, like how far I can get with that on the leaderboards and that kind of stuff. So with that said, I think that this game is actually pretty free-to-play friendly. And might you say, it's like, say, I totally disagree. Well, let me talk to you about the 8 players that are over here. Sure, some of them spent a fair bit, but there's also a few players that just spent like around $500 on this game. And might you say, it's like $500 in the first 6-7 weeks of a gacha game is absolutely insane. What are you talking about free-to-play? Well, what I'm talking about is these guys made it to the top 8 of the world, spending only $500. Let me tell you that much, for Summoners War, most people are way heavier spenders or way heavier tryhards to actually get towards tournaments in that kind of sense, because in the end, yes, you can spend a fair bit, and with spending, you do get an advantage. Otherwise, people wouldn't spend in the first place. Like, in the end, they're a company, they gotta make some money somehow anyways. So, with that said, I do think that this game is a lot more free-to-play friendly than Summoners War, because the amount of crystals you just get from clearing all high-end content is actually a lot. But that also goes back into focusing on the player base. This game is very rewarding if you play a lot. This game is very rewarding if you do everyday triple S over here. If you try to get the highest rewards in here. If you go towards your guild and you're actually in like a proper good guild and you get all of the rewards over there. There's so many good rewards in all of those shops, but you do actually have to buy all of those things. And as you can see over here, there's 4 days left. I pretty much finished the shop already. Why? Because I'm in a good guild. Like, those kind of things are all pretty much straight up free to play. Arena, well, does have to cost you a bit of crystals, but in the end, look at how much I have. If you're in Mythic, you just get a lot of those. You do these 2 on 2K, and those kind of things are really what pushes you towards like a next level. But that is very time invested. And therefore, I would also say the player base that they do focus on, from my understanding of talking to the developers and playing this game for I don't know how many hours, is focused on people that do want to invest time rather than want to invest money. Whereas a game like Wuthering Waves Genshin Impact is maybe a lot more focused on money rather than on time. So that is just a general bit of understanding. It's not really an issue with like the game or anything like that, but I just kind of wanted to give that understanding of like, sure, this is a time-focused game rather than a money-focused game. If you want to be good at this game, it will cost you a lot more time, or you would have to watch more content or play more effective or anything like that. But I would also say on time, one thing that I would like to mention for time as well, I was in Shanghai during the 2x weekend. Because of that, I felt like, ooh, I probably cannot really do that much of the stability. I actually managed to do 12,000 stability when I was in Shanghai. How did I do that? I was not sitting in my hotel like the 24/7. Absolutely not. I actually did the auto runs. The moment I did do the auto runs, I just started the new battle every time about like, I just timed it. Was doing Doki Dokis, and it took me about like 15 minutes-ish. And I just kept track of my phone. Like every 15 minutes, I just click on my phone. I go to the game, start my next run of 10, and then I click off my phone again. That is absolutely goated that you can actually turn off your phone while still playing this stuff. Because for Summoners War, I would have been out of battery within like 5-6 hours of that kind of stuff. And then I would have to charge with like a battery pack or anything like that. But the battery would definitely be more of an issue. In this case, I could still hang around with my friends. We could order taxis. I could use my phone for other things, blah, blah, blah. I could interact with other people. There was definitely a lot of options out there for me to still play while still interacting with the rest of the world. And that is actually really nice, but you have to get to the point where you can actually farm those things on like a proper setup as well. So it's very important that you already have that pre-setup. And therefore the pre-setup thing does take you a lot of time. About gear swapping, which is very important for those kind of things, I'll talk a little about later. And I was actually very enthusiastic the moment they talked about that gear swapping thing. So that will come in a second. Back to focusing on like how time invested is this? Well, the moment you have everything set up, sure, you still have to do your dailies as in like the Phantom Theater, your guild battles and those kind of things. But just the farming actually can be done a lot on the background. And I'm totally fine with that. Some people might say it's like, oh, can you not give like instant tickets of instant clearing things? Well, then we're talking very much once again by Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail kind of people that just want to have the dailies done and everything done in 2 minutes. Sorry, that's not your cup of tea in this game. It's just not gonna happen. I can tell you that much. That will probably never happen. And if you're really looking forward to a game like that, I would recommend you to play something else. That's just the honest truth. I'm not saying it's like, oh, you should still be trying. No, like simple said, if you don't have the time for this game will be very heavy on the time investment to a certain extent. especially if you want to play effective, especially if you want to be at the top. If you want to play more casual, definitely not a wrong game for you whatsoever with any kind of time investment. But if you want to be at the top, if there is a leaderboard, you do have to put more time in. Otherwise, someone else that puts more time in will actually be above you. And that is the main thing with the Wuthering Waves, Honkai Star Rail, or Genshin Impact, or any kind of similar game. These games do not have leaderboards, so you don't feel the competition of someone putting more hours in, whereas in here, there's leaderboards all over the place, and therefore you feel like, hey, someone else is doing better than me. How is that? Well, if someone puts more time in it, they probably do better. Someone puts more money in it, they maybe have an easier route of the time investment as well. But in the end, it's a bit of a combination on that. But I would definitely say it's more time-focused than money-focused in this game for sure. Then the next topic is the economy. So with the economy, we did already have a change recently towards the shells. I don't think I have any of them right now because I already sold all of them. But any of the shell dungeons do now only drop like the golden shells or the mythic shells. As in this dude over here, Dream Bah, or whatever its name is. But that thing will give extra training data, which is definitely a nice thing for the economy. Is it instantly going to be fixing the economy? No. One thing that I definitely do notice myself is that for shells, that these, like the reconfiguration chip, I have 6.5 mil. And that is just already saying like, okay, I've already made most of the shells max level that I need. And most of the training data that I need is just reconfiguring any of the shells and those kind of things. Which is actually a topic that I just added, RNG upgrades. But I'll talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, we do already see that training data is getting a little bit better by them just giving more value of training data in the first place, which is a good thing. Does it immediately solve the economy? No. But I actually did also talk to the developers and mainly to Jack specific. And we were talking about the economy. And the main thing that he said is like, they have people working there doing the math and saying like, okay, what is the game looking like in a year? What is the game looking like in half a year? How much training data would you have by then? How much of this or how much of that would you have by then? And I do already kind of notice it myself. I was sitting on like 24-ish million Etheria coin. There's still a lot of stuff that I have to sell with the current stuff that I have. And the moment you get more and more gear, the moment you already upgraded a fair bit of pieces, and as you can see, I already upgraded a very fair bit of pieces. Like if we compare this to other games, like how far did you upgrade everything in the first 6-7 weeks? Well, probably not this many plus 15s. It's something that kind of solves itself over time. Is it very annoying right now? Yes. Is it something that I still gave feedback onto? Yes. And the main feedback that I gave onto is that I want to be having a cheaper +3, +6, and +9 just to share or like just to check of like, okay, is the stats actually going into anything I like? If not, sell. And then on the later end, like the +12 to +15 or even the 9 to the 12 and the 15, that's where you make it as expensive as it should be right now. So let's keep the same price in the end for like a 1 to 15, but keep it more top heavy rather than bottom heavy. That's the main recommendation I gave for the economy. And the thing what Jack actually said, he agreed, which is a positive thing. If they're actually going to do that anytime soon, I don't know. Like that's also the thing. Like, I don't know if they're actually going to do this because in the end, the funny thing is, it's not Jack having the last word of saying like, okay, this is what's going to happen. At some point, he hears things from the community, either through me or Vulcan or any videos or just on the Discords or Reddits or whatnot. He hears something and then he goes to like his team and he says like, okay, I hear this and this. And then he has to win the argument with them to say it is or it is not an improvement that they do actually want to be focusing on. But it is somewhat noticeable in my opinion, the further you get into the game, the less of Etheria coin you need, because at some point you already have, say you go into this, like my fastest piece is a 10, but I already have like a few other 10s in like the same kind of scenario. Do I still focus on trying to get more 10s at that point? No, the moment like, well, this one can actually use a bit of depth for sure. Whereas one that has more depth, this one is like a bunch of 10s. Over here, we have a bunch of 9s. So yeah, this is kind of an example. It's like, do I really need another 9 for this? No, I would need another upgrade that's higher. But I'm not going to try to roll anything to get another 9 in this, for example. For the longer prolong of time that you're playing, the more you get of those. And sure, you want to be trying to roll the highest thing. But you already know, like, for example, if you have something like this is never going to get higher than a 9. So you're just simply not going to roll it if you just want to get it for the speed. And therefore, you decide more and more where you're just not going to use your Etheria coin. And therefore, your Etheria coin is stacking up. And therefore, the economy is kind of like solving itself over a long duration of time. However, I would still say I want to be testing out like the first few rolls and then just make the top heavy more expensive. Just for like the earlier game to not struggle that much with the Etheria coin that you have. Because I got to this point like 6-7 weeks into the game. Someone that's less tried might get there in like 3 months and be already annoyed and quit the game by that point. So I think the economy will over time fix this by giving like slightly bit better events. People are saying it's like, oh, this event should fix the economy. One event is never going to fix the economy. Like the economy will only be made slightly easier and you get slightly more rewards, but it's not like instantly fixed over one event. So for me, does it really need that much fixing? Well, I think if you just fix this, it is already quite a bit better, and then it still kind of fixes itself over time. Only issue is, did people quit by then? Only the future will tell. Next topic is difficulty of PvE, and I would mainly say the RNG as stages. So I'm not really talking about like, oh, we have like Terramathon is too difficult or Doki Doki is too difficult. I would say if you play long enough, if you go for the right builds, if you use the right units, and no, definitely you don't need a Lily, you don't need a Claws, there's the other options out there. For most of the stages, hear me out on that one, there's a few stages that only have one option out there. But I would say that Terramathon, Doki Doki, and Aurora can all be cleared with pretty much just whatever units you use, if you just use the right team. There's a lot of great content creators out there, such as Barcode, Jean B, me from time to time when I try to do those kind of things as well, with free-to-play teams that actually do showcase you, like, yo, you can actually clear that if you do the investment right. Same for the Nico Nana. Sharon is maybe a little bit more difficult without a Lily, but I have definitely seen teams that do it without these days. Is it a bit more difficult? Yes, it definitely is, but there are definitely options out there where I've seen people clear it with. However, there's one stage, and that's called the Rengoku, which is definitely an RNG Rockery Fox stage. So we did actually not really specifically talk about the Rengoku stage itself, but we did talk about the difficulties, and we did not really have like an honest conclusion about that. So we did talk a little bit about like it should be reduced, and that the PvE difficulty should be more in like the Anti-Sync Echo, Ethernet Rally, Amber Track, rather than the Shell Dungeon and Model Drop. To be honest, I don't really remember the exact answer on that, but we did not really have like a super clear answer on that. But he definitely did feel the struggle of a lot of players in Rengoku 2 specific, because this dungeon is just straight up ass and straight up RNG and straight up annoying. And that is definitely where a lot of people dislike the game for just being too difficult. I would like to say it's like he agreed to nerf those dungeons, but I actually didn't really hear like an answer like that in the first place. So we did talk about it. It is definitely on their radar. They definitely are checking things. I would be very surprised if Rengoku 2 and other dungeons aren't nerfed in the future, because they have been nerfing Nico Nana already, Shadow Flame Hoyan. They have been nerfing the Doki Doki. They have been nerfing Terramathon. It just takes a bit more time for them actually to pick up on the pace. So I would say, estimate, it will be nerfed when I have no. So that's kind of the thing in there. So let's move on to the next topic, Latai's Investment. And, or lettuce or whatever, cabbage, tofus, whatever people have been calling it. And the main answer for this one was actually, it is too easy to summon units, which actually makes a lot of sense. Like, for example, in Summoners War, when I started playing Summoners War, it took me 9 months to get my first net 5. That is the equivalent of playing 9 months to get your first SSR. Well, if that was the case, no one would have been playing this game, because different times of sports and no one would like a game that grindy anymore these days. But just a comparison, I took 9 months, not to get an LD SSR, no, to get my first SSR in Summoners War. At that time, you do actually get a lot of, well, in that case, Devilmons in this games, like the Tofus, for what you can do for investments. So that is definitely one of those things. It's just a simple fact, you can't build everything you pull. And that's just also the thing they say. And that's maybe, is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Well, they're just not gonna give you that many more of these. And you already get a fair bit of it. You can will to get more of those. That's definitely one of the better whaling things out there, because I would say the Prowler's thing, especially also with like the extra speed in here and all of those kind of things, does give you a lot of extra stats, absolutely. But yeah, that's just a simple fact. We get too many, it's just a simple fact, we get too many units, and because of that, we need an insane amount of Lataises. They decided to do one thing and not the other. Is it a bad thing? I don't know, but that's pretty much just the answer. It is meant to be kind of rare. It's meant to be you making a choice of what you want to build. It's meant to be that you have to make active decisions of what you want to build, what you want to invest in, and what you want to play with, rather than just getting everything right. Once again, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? To be honest, I think it's kind of fair. Otherwise, everyone would be having everything by now already. And to be honest, I already used a fair bit. Sure, the money that I did spend was all in the tofus in general sense. But you do get a lot of them for free as well if you do play most of the content. And sure, we do have a bunch of stuff that is a little bit too much RNG for it, which we'll talk about on the next one, which is the super RNG heavy event, Dreamscape. They did say right away they saw it was too RNG and not liked. They will tune that down next. That is pretty much the main answer that they gave. So I can make a very long story on that, but long story short, they did see it was too RNG. They did see people didn't like it, and they did see that they will probably tune that down on the next one. Sure, we still have events like the Shell story and that kind of stuff, which are pretty RNG heavy, like on which things you do land or do not land, and how many of those revelation orbs you get. I think it's called revelation orbs, whatever they're called. But yeah, those kind of things, they're just kind of RNG, and they like the RNG events. More people are more interested in the events that we have with the Candy Party, where just if you play everything, you just get everything. That kind of stuff. They still do like their RNG events, so they will be having RNG events in there. But they also do have events in there that are just catered towards more endgame players. So there will always be one event that's just simple, clear for everyone. And there will be one event such as the Cage Rumble, Infinity Train, Dreamscape, or anything related to that kind of sense, which will simply be a more difficult event, but therefore also gives a lot of rewards the moment you can actually clear that. However, they did definitely see that the RNG was way too heavy in it, and therefore it was not liked as much as they were hoping for it, and they will definitely tune down on RNG in events, is what they said. Then the next topic is, for me personally, the most interesting topic out there, because the economy and everything, I think it will fix itself. Like, sure, everyone's like pitchfork economy, because everyone else says economy. Oh, everyone says Latai, so let's pitchfork on Latai as well. For me personally, I would like to play the game as a PvP game. And currently, I'm not playing that much PvP because I need my gear to farm. In this case, I'm farming Aurora. I need my gear then specific on like certain things. I cannot use bulwarks in PvE and that kind of stuff. In the Hyperlink talk, at some point they had us just like, yeah, get more gear and it will be solved. Well, actually, we got a very different answer this time, and an answer I'm a lot more pleased about, so definitely an interesting one right there. And the fun fact is, I asked the question, Jack interrupted me halfway and already gave the answer on something that I was about to ask. So that does actually show that they know what they're talking about, they know what's going on in the game, and they know what people are looking for. And that very first interaction already gave me quite a bit of hope. So what was the answer on the gear split? They are going to make a gear split between PvE and PvP. So what does that look like? Simple fact, the moment you go into your arena realm, you can change the gear over here, but then you're only changing the gear for Ether Arena, Summit, and Fearless Arena, and GVG will be locked in with that as well. But they actually did a better up, and a way better up, and that is gear swapping for PvE, because right now I'm farming Aurora, I have a certain set in there, and it's catered towards in that way. But the moment I switch to Doki Doki, I would have to switch gear. The moment I switch to Shells, I would have to switch gear. And sure, you could say it's like, oh, but you have these over here, and you can switch those and confirm those, and you have like 100 right now, and you could scroll through back and forth, I don't know how many times, but that's still annoying. What they're actually going to do, and I was very impressed by this one, and I would really like to see the implementation of this, is that every dungeon will have its own gear lock. So that does mean Rengokutsu, I lock 5 units, and these are the gears that are used for Rengokutsu. The moment I'm going to start farm the Shadow Flame Hoyan, I can continue with the gear that I put on the Shadow Flame Hoyan team previous. Same for Sharon, same for Nikonana, same for all of those. Every individual dungeon will actually have like a preset of what I used last time, which is absolutely goated. That would make it so nice, because right now a lot of the time investment, if we're talking about like focus of player base, like how much time do you need, every time, like especially around the time of the hyperlink charter where you're towards the end, oh, do like 10 Dokis, then do 10 Terramatons, do 10 Auroras, then do 10 Nikonanas. And every time we're just switching like 5 characters or 4 characters or I don't know how many, and it's super annoying. The moment they actually make a gear split for every dungeon, that will be absolutely goated, and I think that would be one of the best features of qualities of life out there compared to any other game. Like if we compare it to Summoner's War or anything like that, if you want to have like a proper gear farming team over there, you would still have to switch. And you don't even have the loadouts over there. Let alone that you're just simply going to be, it's like, oh, I go into Aurora, my Aurora team is already still set. oh, moment I go into Terramaton, my Terramaton team is still set. And they all use different pieces and more catered towards something. Because in the end, if I'm doing Aurora, I don't want Lily to move all the way first, because now I have my Lily move, then I have my Yelly move, and then I have the Ling Lo move. That's not the right order. I would like to have Ling Lo move, then I would have to have Viper move, and then the Lily goes, and then the Yelly goes. And that would be a way better turn order. You could even play it slightly different, where you would say, it's like, I make my damage dealer, if it's a fast one or something like that, move in front of the Lily and then boost up like the attack bar again and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of options that you could work with for a very specific team. And that also would really reduce the difficulty of PvE in general, because you can make a team with the absolute perfect gear, the absolute perfect shell, and the absolute perfect everything that you have to just simply make this all a lot easier. And I would really like to see how they're going to implement this. And I guess that this team is failing at the moment, unless I do lap with you right now. If I don't lap, I'm definitely going to be dead. But whatever goes on in that, it will be a lot better to actually go for those kind of things. So the gear split is one of those things I'm actually super enthusiastic about. They did say that they probably will do that at the end of the Summit Arena season. So that's about 4 days. So I expect it on a patch somewhere in the next week. So definitely my high hopes are on that patch. One thing that I do have to add, which I just forgot and I post-recorded it after, is that they did not want to make it where you can duplicate gear. So for example, if I'm farming a specific dungeon in Aurora, I cannot use the same gear. Like, let's say I'm auto farming this, I cannot use the same gear on a different unit in Doki Doki. So that's only if you're doing like the auto farm and the manual farm like at the same time. So in that case, you cannot duplicate gear. I'm not entirely sure like how they're going to check that or anything like that. However, that will be possible for PvP. In PvP, it's just a complete duplicate of everything, and you can use whatever you want. Then another topic we did talk about is RNG for upgrades. So sure, for modules, whatever it rolls in, whatever it rolls in. Like, that's just the general mechanic of any kind of given game. Not that big an issue. However, what is an issue is shells with RNG. You getting the perfect shell is so difficult. So for example, Swift Rush and Swift Smite, I have a fair bit of pieces, but I actually have way more Swift Raids, and my Swift Rush, Swift Raid, I have 0. That is not that many. So same thing if you want to get Revelations. So my Swift Smites on Revelations, I have about 4 of those. If we go for the Fury Edges on Revelations, I have a lot more. I would like to have more Fury or more Swift Raids in those. So those are just kind of the issues that I'm walking into, which I did say is like, okay, would be nice if you get certain material from either like recycling them or just farming enough, where you could go to a certain shop, such as the exchange shop over here with modules, and then you buy a specific piece that you would like, with saying like, okay, I want at least Swift Rush on it, and then Swift Raid, and then the third one is random. And then if you lock in 2, it will be more expensive. If you only lock in the Swift Raid, for example, it will be less expensive. He actually did not say it's like, okay, we agree, but he did actually say that they already have something in plan for that for the modules. And for the modules, let's say that you need a very specific piece. Let's say that you're working on this, and you do need this one specific on crit damage. You don't need it on crit rate. You don't need it on anything else. I just need this on crit damage. And they actually were talking about a crafting system, and which those craft you can actually select. Like, maybe you can select like, okay, straight up the crit damage on the Swift Raid. Just give me that piece, and then whatever rolls on it, of course. But at least you can go more specific to where it's like, oh, you're missing out on this key piece, and the RNG is just not giving you any. They will help you out with the RNG pieces by having you certain craft things. They did not really have that implemented for the shells, or at least what he was talking about was more like, oh, we don't really have that for the shell just yet. But they did already think about it for modules. Then we also had to talk about, like, of course, these things over here with the reconfiguration, and that you can go infinitely dry on that. And the fun fact is, I'm not sure which topic it was, but at some point he just said, like, math is math, and they did the math, and at some point you should get there. I countered the argument with math is math, and therefore there's a technical probability to actually never get anything and go infinitely dry on something. Sure, you should probably get something. The statistics say you should get something at some point, probably. But the actual fact is that if something is a 1% chance to get like a speed, for example, you could go 16,000 dry to not get a 1%. And that is annoying. The moment that I said that, he was like, yeah, that actually does make sense. If you go very unlucky, you could get to that point. So the way that I suggested this, so let's say you do 10 refreshes on this. Every 10 refreshes you do, you remove one of these things. So 10 refreshes, you remove the attack. 10 refreshes, you remove the flat attack. 10 refreshes, you remove the HP. And then 10 refreshes, the flat defense. And then after 10 refreshes, and then after like 50 or 60 refreshes, you can only roll for HP, so you're at least working towards something. And that is kind of the thing where I saw his Iron Shy is like, yeah, that actually does make sense, because in the end, Jack plays the game. All of these people pretty much working on the game do play the game as well. And he felt very frustrated of like working the whole week to trying to get a piece, but not really get an upgrade or not really feeling towards progressing anything. And that's the main thing I said with RNG. RNG in the game is not bad, but people would have to have a feeling towards progressing. So if I reroll this for like 1,000,000 times and I don't get anything, I'm still stuck on this 16. Whereas, let's say I did like 50 refresh, at least I now know, it's like, okay, I did waste a lot of resources, but the only thing I can get is HP right now. So it's only a matter of time before I hit that 23 or that 30. And that is kind of the thing that you can progress towards, like getting a really good thing, rather than have to pray to RNGs to actually get anywhere. And they did not necessarily say that they agreed or not agreed, but it was definitely something where I saw Jack's eyes shine. It's like, yeah, no, that actually makes sense. I want to be progressing. I want to be investing time, and I want to be rewarded for my time investment. I don't want to be just rewarded for being lucky. So personally, for me, that's already a positive answer by just having him the feeling of like, yeah, I would like that as well. If Jack is on the point of like, yeah, I would like that as well, the moment he has to talk to his team, he will also give that argument with the same enthusiasm as I'm giving it right now. And that just simply means that it's more likely to get in the game. If it's actually going to be there anytime soon, I don't know. But they did talk about modules and crafting, and therefore you can select like the right core piece on the right main stat, and then you can craft those kind of things. And that is something that might be coming in the future as well. Then another topic that was kind of discussed during the dinner and stuff, there's more regions coming up later. So they still have like the China server itself, maybe a Japan server, Korea server. I have no clue which specific servers they're going to be doing, but they will have more servers coming in later. So not just like Europe server 10 or 9 or whatever number they're at right now. They will actually go for specific servers for those regions. They will have like speed up events and those kind of things. So they will catch up to us at some point, but they're already looking at the moment that these servers are released to do more tournaments as we did last weekend in Shanghai. So they're definitely looking towards the future of this game as well. And it's not just a simple cash grab. It's like, oh, we're just going to go hard in the first 2-3 months and then just let it sink all together. We also went to the office, and it was actually way bigger than expected. Like, I've been to offices for Summoners War and stuff, and they have like a few floors in like multiple buildings and those kind of things. But in this case, for the XD office, they pretty much have like their own park with multiple floors of multiple buildings. We have to see like 5 buildings. Sure, not everything was working on the Etheria restart, but I would definitely say a really big portion was working on the Etheria restart. We were trying to kind of find like some sneak peeks of maybe new units or anything like that. And unfortunately, didn't see anything like that. But it was kind of fun to walk around the office like, look at that guy, he's playing games while work hours. Oh wait, that's actually his work. Either way, on to the next one. So yeah, it was cool to see that a lot of people are working on this game. And it gave me a lot more ground of like, yo, they're actually working on something, rather than it's just like, we just see Jack and Jack is saying something and then Jack is maybe or maybe not doing it. And then we go pitchfork like everything is bad in the game. So yeah, it gave me a little bit more ground of saying like, okay, stuff is going on. The question is, when is it going to happen and how is it going to happen? I hope with this video, I also made a few more people enthusiastic about this game. I definitely do still think there has to be quite some work done to actually save this game and make people more enthusiastic once again, because definitely the player base is currently not enthusiastic whatsoever. So I do hope that will change a little bit in the future with slightly different updates, less RNG, more friendly towards like the players itself, and just in general making the game more enjoyable to play. Because in the end, I did say that at the start, I think this game is incredibly good at base. They've just been messing up a few key points here and there, which made it snowball, but that the community is just hating more and hating more and hating more. But I would say that they get a little bit of unnecessary hate, maybe of not being like a Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, of just logging in 2 minutes and then logging out and then be like done with your day. It's just simply not the game for that. If you do like your games like that, I would recommend you to play one of those games rather than this game. So yeah, that's all for me for this video. If you have any more questions, maybe I did forget a few topics. I think I did hit most of the topics that I did discuss, but that we did discuss about. Definitely do check out the channel of Vulcan, and I think Gacha Smack is going to be doing a VOD of the whole thing. Mr. Pokey probably also do his own video on that, and same for YDCB and pretty much everyone else that was there. So definitely do check out those channels of those people as well. And yes, I will continue on making Etheria restart content. But for me, I'm also still kind of on the point. It's like, first I would like to see what they're implementing and how they're doing it. Before that, I go like overly crazy and like lots of hours of streams and lots of hours of everything. I would like to see how they pick up the pace right now from the tournament towards now also making the general player base more happy, because definitely the thing what we could see at the start of the event when we were in the hotel, everyone was like a little bit skeptical because everyone did feel like the player base and everyone felt like, yeah, is it really going in the right direction at the moment? It kind of feels like a little bit off and that kind of stuff. But in the end, I can tell you, after the event, all of the players, all of the influencers, everyone was very enthusiastic about the whole event, but also about the game once again. So I do hope that with these kind of events, it kind of shows that. But I also mainly hope with the future updates that are coming, maybe next week, anytime soon with the gear swap, or maybe the RNG upgrades or anything like that, I do really hope that they would go for those anytime soon to pretty much save the game. So in the end, for the title of this video, is the game savable? Yes, I definitely do think so, but I definitely would also say that XD Company, the makers of Etheria Restart, have to step up their game a little bit of giving the community a little bit more of what they want, or communicate what they're going to get. And that's everything for me, guys. Thanks a lot for watching for this one. I hope to see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.